Have you ever wanted to make more gold in World of Warcraft? Well, so does everyone else. But there are certain items that are put into the game that sell for an incredible amount of money, so much so that if you obtain them, you'll never have to think about money again. There are items in the game that are so incredibly sought after that players are willing to spend an insane amount of money trying to buy them. We are all familiar with mounts and how much they can sell for. But there are certain items that are bought just for the transmogrification reasons, that people are willing to spend an incredible amount of money just to acquire and show off. In this video, we will be looking at some of the rarest and most expensive items that you can get in World of Warcraft. So number one is the Pendulum of Doom. Back in the day, this item was by far the best weapon that was level 39. By far. The unique property of this weapon was that it had an incredibly slow speed, a 4-second attack timer, which meant it dealt an insane amount of damage in the hands of a warrior, paladin, and a shaman. So if you acquired this item, you were doing some insane damage in PvP. So many level 39 twinks would be willing to spend an exorbitant amount of money trying to get this. So much so that it ranges from 7 million gold to 10 million gold. Unfortunately, now that we live in the level scaling world of World of Warcraft, that this item is no longer used as much for its twinking purposes, as every item in the game now scales with level. However, this item still hasn't diminished that much in value. In fact, although this item has been nerfed and the fact that it is part of the level scaling process of WoW, it still sells for an incredible 7 million gold on the AH right now. If you go onto the Undermine Journal, which is the best place to find rare items in WoW, you will see that the prices range from 10 million to 7 million. So, if you want to acquire this, how do you get it? Well, you can acquire this from Uldaman, which has an incredibly low drop chance from the trash mobs you can find in this dungeon. However, Uldaman is not unique in the fact that it only has one super rare drop. It also has a bunch of other items that are highly expensive, such as the Papal Fez. This Fez, like the Pendulum of Doom, drops from the trash mobs in Uldaman. However, this item it's actually the only Fez model in the game, and it has garnered a lot of attention for how rare it is. You may be thinking a simple Fez could not sell for so much money. Well, this actually sells for more than the Pendulum of Doom. This sells for 7.3 million gold. So if you are lucky enough to obtain this item, you'll pretty much never have to buy WoW Game Time again. You could probably buy about 70 plus WoW game tokens. So, I mean, you can play the game for as long as you want at that point. That's like 5 years of gameplay if you acquire this item. If you find this in Uldaman, do not sell it to the vendor. Definitely keep a hold of it. But there is one more item that sells in Uldaman. It is 8 million gold, and it is the Miner's Hat of the Deep. Now, I cannot tell you why this is so expensive. The model itself doesn't really stand out as anything special. However, this sells for 8 million gold, and like the other items that are super rare to Uldaman, you can obtain this BOE from the trash mobs. So if you want to make some gold, if you want to roll the dice and maybe make some big money, definitely start farming Uldaman. Alright, we've been a bit Uldaman heavy. Let's go see some of the super expensive items that are outside this dungeon. There is an item called the Tibu's Blazing Longsword, and this item has been classic. It has been expensive since day one, pretty much. Now, in Vanilla WoW, if you look at the Vanilla WoW box art, you will see a dwarf wearing this item. So, ever since we obtained the box of World of Warcraft, we've wanted this weapon. So, in Vanilla WoW, this weapon was extremely expensive for the time, and even today, this weapon is still expensive for the transmog reasons. It sells for an amazing 5 million gold. But if you want to obtain this, you're going to have to be doing some farming for a long time. In fact, you can obtain this item from a bunch of level 60-ish mobs that were in Kalimdor. However, level scaling has made this process a little bit more complicated. And we have the Chromatic Sword. Now, the Chromatic Sword is, in my opinion, the coolest looking item in the game. And the reason for that is that this sword's effect is rainbow colored. Now, when you look at normal items in the game, it usually has like one color glow. So you have like a sword that has a red color glow or a purple or whatever, right? However, this sword has a rainbow color glow, which makes it the only item in the game that has this effect. So if you want to obtain this item, you're going to have to do a lot of farming, because to obtain this item is virtually impossible today. Come the patch of Cataclysm, this item was almost impossible to obtain, as the item drops from a super rare mob in Stranglethorn Vale, but on top of that, the chances of it dropping is like 0.5%, I think. It's got like an 8-hour respawn, and the drop chance is minuscule. So to obtain this item is virtually impossible. However, back in the day, obtaining this item wasn't as complicated. You could actually get a 25% drop chance before Cataclysm. However, most of the people that have obtained this weapon way back in the day are no longer playing, or they sold the weapon to someone or something. So there are very limited supply when it comes to the sword, and it sells for a whopping, a crazy 8 million gold. So out of all of the items I've spoken about, this is probably the item that I'm most interested in buying. Like, if I could obtain this item, can you imagine just like walking around Dalaran with this sword? I mean, it's so cool, right? So in this video, we've been over a few items that, although they sell for an incredible amount of money, they aren't realistic enough to farm. Trying to get the Alderman rares and like the T-Boo's Blazing Longsword, I mean, if you obtain it, it's amazing, but the chances of it dropping is so low, and most people do not prefer this type of farming. There are some rare items that you can obtain that, yeah, they do require some farming, but it is still realistic to obtain. I think some examples of these are the Whelpling pets. The Whelpling pets sell for a good amount of money. You know, some of these Whelpling pets sell for 40,000 gold plus. So if you obtain them, that is a hefty amount of money. And to obtain them is not that grueling. It's not such a shot in the dark like it is with the Alderman rares. The Whelpling pets, for example, the Crimson pet, you can obtain this from the Wetlands trash mobs. So all you have to do is just go around wetlands and kill everything in sight, and eventually you'll get this pet, and it will net you 35,000 gold. There's also the Emerald Whelpling, which is the most expensive, which sells for 45,000 gold. And then there is the Azure Whelp, drops some things in Winterspring, so all you have to do is just farm stuff in Winterspring and eventually you will get it. The drop chances on these is stuff like 0.03%, so it is rare, but it is not that unfeasible to obtain. If you want a reliable way to farm some rare items, I think this is a decent place to start, as getting some of the other items I discussed in this list is really just a roll of the dice. Like, there's no way to reliably farm them. There are guys that have been farming Alderman thousands of times, and they haven't got any of the items we spoke about in this video. So last but not least, we have the Thistle Tea recipe. So the recipe of Thistle Tea was an item that was in Vanilla WoW, and it was part of the Rogue questline, and you had obtained this item as a reward from a quest. It basically gave you the recipe to make an item that was very useful for PvP rogues. The item had a 5-minute cooldown and gave you 100 energy, so many PvP rogues were very interested in this item. However, every rogue obtained this if they did the quest, so obtaining this item back in the day was not that complicated. To get the recipe, it was pretty simple. However, this questline has been removed from the game. In World of Warcraft, you can buy this item for just under 1 million gold, which is not as much as some of the other items we have discussed. However, this item is definitely one of the most unique items we're talking about. It's not really a transmogrification weapon, it's not a mount, it's none of those. It's actually just a recipe for an item, but for some reason people value this really highly. If you enjoyed this video and this video led you to getting one of these items, I think you should like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. This is Volty, signing out.